Alright, so we'll be doing Dream Break today. This game came out, I want to say yesterday. It's a kind of like a point and click platformer, if I remember that's what the description said. From the screenshots, it looks a lot like the game Another World, and then even the other game called Flashback. I had never played Flashback. I know the Flashback was inspired by Another World. I played Another World years ago. One of my cousins, it was either my cousins or one of their friends had it, and I remember playing it a little bit back then. I mean, I was pretty young to remember, so I don't remember too much about it. That's probably another game I should probably go back and try. There's like so many games from I played when I was a child, like I either never finished or I just don't remember, that I feel like I should go back and play. The story of this game is you play as a character named Eugene. It's set in like an alternate timeline during the USSR was still a thing. I think it's like post-Cold War, but it's just a game about like conspiracy and something about murder. I don't know. I probably should have read a lot more of the description before I started spouting stuff off like I knew what I was talking about. But it looked like a pretty cool game. Like I said, I know I always say that, I feel like, but I mean, you know, a lot of the games I play look like pretty cool games to me. I will say that I have already played through it. So this will be actually my second time playing it. It's a very easy game. It's a very linear game, so it's pretty easy to figure out. It probably took me about, I want to say, an hour and a half max to beat the game the first time, so it'll probably be a little quicker this time around. But it is very linear. Like, you don't really get stuck in too many places. A lot of things are laid out for you, so it's not too difficult of a game. I figured for a game like this, when I first saw it, it would be like a pretty hard puzzle platformer, but it's pretty easy, so you'll probably, anyone that plays will probably easily get the hang of it. But we'll just go ahead and start playing it. Looking in the options, it actually gives you a choice to play with the keyboard, or even to plug into a gamepad, or plug in a gamepad and play that way. This whole game I used just the mouse to play. I didn't feel like really breaking out my gamepad, and my keyboard's so obnoxious that I don't use any of them. I did use the keyboard a couple of times, so I played the first time. It just didn't feel kind of like fluid. It just didn't work enough for me. So I just literally used the mouse. The controls in the game aren't too bad. When using the mouse, since that's the most experience I had playing this game with, it can definitely get clunky, maybe even a little bit frustrated in some parts, just trying to use the mouse very well. There's only a few parts that come out that stick out in my mind, so I'll point those out when we get to it. But for the most part, the game was pretty responsive, so I wouldn't really knock too many points off of that. The text boxes as well, I'd probably say that's another thing I didn't like. Some of them are fine, like right here, it's not too bad, but there are a few times where it's really hard to read, or the text boxes will kind of disappear too quick. The way these text boxes work, though, is they'll pop up when you get to like a certain, because I can see it looks like the game's like made up in like kind of like little small rectangle sections, and then the text will pop up when you hit a certain section. So as long as you stay in that section, it'll stay there and you can read it. So I mean, it gives you time to read it, but there's a few times where there's like something in the background or something happening, maybe even sometimes the way the font is or the type of font, that makes it hard to read. But again, it's nothing where I, you know, dock points off the game tremendously. The jump animation reminds me a lot of Another World, or like those old Prince of Persia games, I think for either the NES or the Super NES. I think even less of the Unlikely. I think that's another game that jump reminds me of, because it just looks the same. Like, just the animation of it looks the same. I know in a couple of my other videos, I've always said that I would try and read, like, the subtitles of the text that comes up, and I've done a couple takes of them in this game, and it just feels awkward, and it just sounds awkward, so I don't know, unless I improve on it later down the road, I'll probably just stay quiet while they go up. Now this part I'm gonna skip. This little arcade game right here, if you actually finish the arcade game, it'll give you an achievement. I didn't have it yet, so I forgot that I was recording this for the playthrough, so I'm gonna cut all of this out and you'll see me hit the achievement. But basically all it is that you just keep playing until you get to the end level, and I think there's like 42 stages or something like that. But yeah, you get to the end, and then you'll come to this guy who's pretty ecstatic to see you, and then it'll pop the achievement. I don't think you have to get the score, you just have to reach it to the last stage. And there's a couple points in the game where they'll have like these little like puzzles like these, and in all honesty, these are probably, at least to me, these are like the hardest puzzles in the game, and they're not too difficult, but everything else in the game that is like a puzzle or you know, requires you to kind of do some thinking, are pretty easy, and most of the time it's just like very little trial and error. I think there's about 3 parts in the game that have these kind of stages. Like I said, they're really the only difficult parts in the game. And it's probably me. I don't really like plan things out. I just kind of click on stuff until I know it works. So you'll probably have no trouble really getting through it. Oh yeah, and I was gonna mention, well, now that this is blocking the screen, I guess I'll just say it when this whole thing is off the screen. As you can see, like, there's orange outlines around the door, and then some objects will be orange as well. That'll pretty much tell you stuff you can click on. So if it's not orange, most of the time you don't even have to worry about it. So that's a pretty big hint that the game gives you. So even though like the side of the screens will be orange, would it need you to progress the next way. So it's, like I said, it's a very easy game, and there's times where it pretty much walks you through it. The music, excuse me. The music's pretty good. I know there's a option to buy like the special edition where you can get the soundtrack as well. I don't really buy too many soundtracks to games unless I, you know, really love the soundtrack for it. But the music in the game was pretty cool. It does remind me a lot of those old PC games like this. So I don't know. Maybe I'll buy the soundtrack to kind of support the team that made the game. But it does kind of have like that, like, sci-fi, cyberpunk, I don't know. You'll see these pamphlets everywhere. Most of them are actually a pamphlet from a group you run into, and it's gonna be a little bit of a spoiler alert because I already beat this game. When you first play it, it'll have most of the sections like blocked out, and the more you uncover, the more of the message it reveals. But since I already beat the game, it just shows all of the message right off the bat, so that's gonna be kind of a little bit of a spoiler alert first, so I do apologize for that. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm checking back into these past rooms, And here's another thing it won't show. There's actually an achievement to collect these vinyl records, and again, these aren't hidden at all. I mean, they're like wide out in the open, so you'll easily get all of them. I think there's like, I want to say like maybe there's 12 or something like that. But yeah, you get an achievement to collect all of them, and I'd beaten the game and the achievement didn't pop, so I thought I was missing one. So I went back and just checked those old rooms to make sure there wasn't ones in there that I had missed. So I do apologize again for not being able to show you where those are in this playthrough, but no joke, they're literally right out in the open and you see them in every level, so it's going to be pretty hard to miss them if you're trying to collect them, basically. A little control note, as you can see, he's running. He won't always run. Like if you point for him to go somewhere, he won't run automatically. You'll have to double click it, and that'll get him to run. And sometimes, and that's where part of the controls kind of get clunky. Yeah, as you can see right here, it shows the whole message. When you first get it, it only shows like bits and parts of it, and then like I said, the more you unlock, the more it'll show. And then now it just shows the whole message. So if you want to read the whole thing before the game ends or before you play it, it's right there in front of you. And then this is where my music achievement clicked. So yeah, so you get the 2 on the left right off the bat. So there's 4, 5, 10. So there's 12 of them you have to collect. So, but make sure once you collect them all, when you start a new game, to go back into the music shop, and it'll pop that achievement for you. I just want to give a warning. If you have like dual or like triple monitors set up, it's kind of hard to get that. At least for me, it was. If you want to move the screen over, it's kind of hard to get the screen over because sometimes I've clicked into my other monitor and I've exited out the screen. So that was kind of a little setback I ran into sometimes. So. You'll see I'll pass a door up here on the stairs. It blocks you from going in it because the hotel's closed off. So we'll have to use this lift to get up to the floor we need to go to. There's a power generator in this room here that we have to turn on, or we have to turn on. There's actually 2 things you'll need to grab in here, and you'll see they're both on opposite sides of the room. I do like the graphics, like the pixelized graphics of it. I'm actually appreciating it a lot more and more. I know there's a time I was just like, I don't really want to, feel like I'm playing an old game again. But it's definitely one of those things where over time, and I think I was just being, honestly, just like super picky about it. But it's definitely over time I actually appreciate seeing it a lot more. I mean, there's a lot of games today that, obviously try to strive to be like the best visuals possible, and it is nice to kind of take a step back and see kind of like the older style art and graphics that we grew up with, essentially. A lot of I know I'm interjecting here randomly, but a lot of their like the steps you have to do to advance the game. I know some games, if you try to like do it with missing a step, it'll like fail, or you have to do it and try it again. In this game, I've realized it actually won't let you progress until you do everything. So for example, if you try to go into that room without putting that stuff in the vent, it actually won't even let you go in the room. So it's not like you can walk in there and he like shoots you up. It actually won't even let you do anything. And it's a little fun note here is that the first time I played it, I went to the fridge first and it said nothing here, and then once I went to the cabinet, it gave me all of that stuff. So it seems like whichever one you pick first, the second object is going to have the guns in it. So it's kind of not like a definite thing, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The combat in the game that we're about to see here in a minute or so, this is where it really reminds me of Another World. It doesn't work the same way per se, a little bit, but for example, you can shoot people. If you click to the front of your character, you'll do your attack, but if you shoot to the back, as you saw, will actually put up a force field. And I remember in Another World, at least I think I remember correctly, you could actually charge your gun up to actually make a shield in front of you. I think though in Another World it stayed there for a pretty good amount of time, whereas the shield in this game will only stay for about a few seconds, so you have to time it right. This is probably another complaint of mine, and it could honestly be just like a bullshit complaint, but there's a few stages like this, like these kind of like action stages, that just seem to go on forever. I don't want to say that. I feel like I'm really nitpicking. I don't want to say they go on forever, but they definitely seem... It's probably just the fact that it's super repetitive is why it seems like it takes a lot longer than it should. But that's really all you do in this section. Is that you just click on the drones and then just highlight the pattern, and then that's all you do, and they just kind of keep coming. There's no shortage for police drones, let me tell you. Like, spending a lot of money, you're just dropping these things. So, but no, there's a few, and I'll point them out as well. Like I said, it could just be something on my, it could just be something that I don't like. Everyone else may not mind it, but at least for me, it seems like it goes on for maybe a little bit longer than it should. Like the guy's just like, well, damn. Only in the USSR. A lot of these notes, even like reading now while I'm doing the recording, it doesn't seem like, and I could just be super dense, but it didn't seem like it added too much to the story, or at least involved directly to what you're doing. I know there's a couple towards, I want to say, the middle of the end of the game that actually relate to each other, but a lot of them I've read have seemed to just be like little like anecdotes and stuff. The silhouette of the people there, it reminds me, there's this video, I'm gonna butcher this dude's name, it's think it's like Jan Svankmajer. I'll have to look that up. But he does like surreal videos, and he has a video called Breakfast. It's like a very surreal, like dreamlike stop motion video, and there's this part at the end where it shows a hallway of people, and it kind of reminds me of the silhouette. I know that's like a really dumb anecdote. I'll post a picture so like you know what I'm saying, but it was just one of those things that, you know, mindless time on the internet just reminds me of other stuff I do. And that guy above that vent while we're going in those rooms, very, very G-Man like, if I may say, very, very mysterious and G-Man like. I've been trying to read what that says right there. I know all the subtitles are in English, but I know it's, I think, originally a Russian-made game, so I don't know if it says something in Russian. So I apologize if I'm being very ignorant about it. I guess this part's very Half-Life as well, with like the big screen. Man, I haven't played that game in forever, but I always remember the big TV screen of God, whatever his name was, talking all the time. So there's a couple things here I'll point out. There is the orange like speeder bike on the left. You can help him fix his bike, and then it'll take you to a little mini game where you need to add points, or where you can earn points. Because in this next part here, and you'll see here in a minute, you have to earn points in order to proceed to the next quest. These are my favorite references right here. Obviously, Doc Brown and Marty sitting at the bar right here. And then those guys dancing, they remind me of that guy in Italian Spider-Man that like shakes his head all weird. I don't know why, but it's the way they're doing it is what reminds me of it. But yeah, you need to get 2,000 points. Now you can do it three ways. You can do the speed bike way. It doesn't cost anything to play it, but you get points pretty at least in my opinion, you get it pretty slowly. And then if you saw, there's a screen to the right of the door we needed to go to, and it's dog races. Now you have to win, I want to say, if you bet and win on them, that's also an achievement as well. So I would suggest to say, if you want to get an achievement, at least play that one once. But it's $50 or coins or whatever points to play. And then if you win, it's 250. So I mean, either way, you still kind of get out on the top. But I think it takes a little bit longer. So personally, I think this game, even though it's, again, tedious and kind of repetitive, I think it gets you the points a little bit quicker. Now, if you're smart, unlike me, there are times where the people you'll shoot in will drop like money bags, and it'll give you extra points. And the points increase as you increase stages. So I'll skip the rest of it so you don't have to keep watching it. But I think it's the easiest way to get the 2,000 points needed to advance to the next part. Oh yeah, and don't be an idiot like me. Get a couple of points extra, because it does cost 100 points to play the game. So I had beaten it and then got off the machine and only had 1,900 points. So just get a couple hundred extra just to be safe. I always thought it was cool when you'd have like the pixelated graphics like this, and then you had like the smooth animation. I think mostly, I know I mentioned the other games before, but I think Prince of Persia, that game, I remember I experienced it the most, and comparing it to other games around that time I had played, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before, so I always thought it was super cool. I do remember there is a record in this in that area right there what I'm pointing to. I know there's one there. So it kind of shows you that they really are most of the time out in the open. Sometimes you might have to like move the screen all the way to the left or right in order to find them, but it's never anything where you really have to go out of your way. And here's one of the parts where the game's controls can definitely get pretty frustrating, just because you have like so much you have to do. Sometimes your like clicks won't register or you won't do the right thing. But I'll kind of show you how to get through this. So as you can see, depending on where you move your cursor, it actually dictates the action he'll do. So if you want to jump over something, you have to move your cursor all the way to the top, and sometimes it won't register or like it'll click to the wrong thing. So I would say it definitely makes this part a little bit hard, but again, nothing really too terribly frustrating. It's just something I definitely noticed while playing. And then for this, it makes it easier. If you saw me, I'm kind of like running back and forth when it's tracked onto me. It makes it easier the further away you can get it from you. And sometimes if you like run past it really quickly, it won't go as far. So you kind of have to like juke it out to make sure it gets as far as possible. So I'll do it from here. I've died plenty of times doing this, so just kind of be a little bit smarter than me about it. See, like that, how it took a little bit to get the, and again, it's something minor, but how it didn't go to the jump icon like pretty quickly. It's like little things like that that'll, you know, that kind of like bug me. And I've died a couple of times, especially the first time I played it, trying to get it because of the controls. And then this is one of the other parts I was talking about. It also seemed to go on forever. It's a cool little kind of like, you know, Space Invaders game. Like all these sentry bots, but it just, I don't know. It just, I guess again because it's just the same thing over and over again. I mean, I liked Space Invaders. It's always fun playing it in an arcade that I come across that'll have it. But it just, you know, it just feels like, I don't want to say it does, but it just feels like it goes on for quite a while. Also, I miss a lot, so that's probably why as well. I don't know how many hits you can take. I think in this playthrough, I take at least 2, and I made it out just fine. So I'm gonna guess and say maybe 3. I don't see anywhere that... I'm a fucking idiot. I just realized it shows the number right in the top right there, how many you have to go through. I'm a fucking moron. I literally just saw that now. So I don't know what it starts out at, but when I looked, it was like 20 something. So I guess it's not terrible, but there's really nothing else to this part. So I think that's why it's kind of just, you know, it just kind of just makes it tedious. In the shooting games, to make it easier, the guards' guns will turn red. They'll like load up when they're trying to shoot. It'll load to like 1 bar if they just shoot like a quick bullet, and then if they shoot their like the 2 or 3, it'll load all the way up with full bar, and it'll show blue when it goes to that like grenade thing that they shoot, or water balloon, or whatever you want it to be. I mean, then these robots are sons of bitches. There's plenty of times where I almost died. I could be patient, but I'm not. I just keep shooting whenever, but they also have shields, so... And then you'll come at points like this where there'll be a little platform in front of you, and then a little force field will come up and it'll actually slow your bullets down, so you have to kind of time it. I don't. I just keep shooting because who has time for strategy? Watch me play. I don't know why I click so far ahead of my character, because then I have to drag it all the way back if I don't put my shield up, because you really can just do it like right in front of your character, so you can switch back and forth easier. I guess I'm just a fucking idiot and I just critiquing my own gameplay while I'm watching this now. I like how it shows the like the dust wind even after it goes to a black screen. Now these look like the little like electricity ones. They don't sprout up, so I actually have never walked across them. But you can see there's like a little grid under them that's all blacked out, and I'm guessing it just triggers like a trap and you fall down it. So I've never actually have done it, but I just assumed that. So here's one of the ones that are related. So this note talks about all the pamphlets that we're seeing, like the resistant ones, and how they want to dispose of all the ones that they find, and it's being led by a like a Sergeant Ivan, and then you'll see a note later on kind of relating to that note. But for this one, again, it's really nothing too tricky. There is a tip I will give though. Because you're one set it to 3, and then don't jump right from there because he has such an Olympic jump. You want to go to the one behind it, and you'll be able to jump in between all of them. So I say that because when I played, I just jumped right from where the first one was, and you land on the second group of those. So I suggest taking like one step back and then jumping from there, and then you should be fine. It's really nothing cryptic, just kind of like a little friendly tip I'd give if you are watching it. I skipped a little part of it because my brain went dumb for some reason, and it took me an extra minute, 2 minutes to figure it out. So I figured I'd spare the cringe of me trying to fix all mistakes and just skip to where I finally got it. I don't know why there's a trap down there. Looking at it, unless there's like a secret down there I'm missing, there's really nothing you need down there. I mean, that pamphlet you can grab from wherever you are on the screen. You can just click on it. You don't really have to be right next to it in order to read it. This next puzzle up here is my favorite because it's literally you just do the green one and then you do the yellow one twice. When I first walked in here to try this out, I was thinking it was going to be like one of those instances where you'd click on a wheel and then it would rotate all of them at different times. So you had to figure out like which combination worked. Nope, you just do the first one and then the two yellow ones. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that the puzzles are pretty easy in this game just for my sake, but they definitely probably could have used a little bit. Just a little bit of a challenge, not too much, just that sweet spot. Using this screen is actually pretty nice. It actually distracts them for pretty much indefinitely. So it's not somewhere you have to like work on your timing. Like this guy will be facing the other direction for as long as the screen's there. So again, something very, very easy puzzle wise, but I like the concept at least. I remember, again, a little kind of weird note. The first time I played this, the other soldier up top actually stayed turned around the whole time. So I don't know if it's something where it bugged out. But this time he actually turned back around the right way. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I don't need to go up there anyway for anything. But it was just, like I said, just a side little note that he actually had stayed the other way the whole time. And then this is the other note. This is the sergeant in charge of the pamphlets actually writing to his parents about finding a way to incinerate all the pamphlets. So those are at least the two that I've read that are actually connected to each other. Oh yeah, so for this next part, don't be a fucking idiot like me. Make sure you block that middle moving one, or else it's gonna keep scanning the stairs while you're walking down it. I don't know why I didn't fucking think of that. And then same thing for the door. When you want to move it all the way to the door on the right, make sure it's gives you enough room above the door, because there was a time where there was about maybe a third of it that was still a little above the door, and it counted it, so I died when I tried to do that. So just don't be like me and actually plan your shit out. So this next part, you can watch me go mental trying to get this. I guess I figured that like I could drag its like flight path, so that's why I kept like dragging it like above it and everything. But you can only really move it just like left and right. So, but this puzzle I don't really see. I try to do it again. I try to make it go under it. There's a weird part to this puzzle. You have to lift this. You have to lift this top part, this last box up, and move it out of the way. But you can just like move it right past the character when he's on the thing. So again, I don't know if that's like a glitch, or if like that's what's supposed to happen. It cracks me up that I keep trying to do it. Like I'm literally just here like critiquing my own gameplay. But yeah, then you can just move it right past him. Like you can't move it if it's like right behind him, but then you can just move it. So like I said, I don't know if that's what's supposed to happen or what, but I always I thought that was a funny kind of little like bug if that's what it is. This boss right here reminds me of the big like sentry droid you fight in the Star Wars Super Nintendo game. That's just what it reminds me of it. Some of these that like these fights or like these puzzles you have to do, I wouldn't even a lot of times even call them puzzles, because like you really don't have to like think. Like there's really not too much trial and error. It's basically just, and it doesn't, you know, it helps that they highlight the stuff you have to click on, but it's really just like click this, then click this, and then click this. So I mean, I'm not ragging on it. I know it sounds like it. Like I said, I can appreciate when it comes to easy puzzles, but I definitely felt like there was a degree of difficulty that they definitely could have added. If you stay by the console, it still works, like, because the reflector's shooting back its projectiles at it. I just moved all the way closer to the edge of it, because it'll readjust its aim, and it'll get it a lot quicker. So you could, as long as you're on the top platform, it'll work, but it definitely makes it go a little bit quicker if you're all the way at the end of it. I skipped a little part of that note. If you click on that join now, at the bottom of it, it minimizes. I don't know if it's supposed to open like a web page. It's happened to me a couple times, but every time I do it, it just minimizes the game and that's it. So nothing really pops up. So I don't know if it's supposed to take you somewhere, but at least from when I've done it, it hasn't really shown me or like taken me anywhere. Like, what the fuck was happening here? Like, what? He was just, like, perpetually running. Looking at like the screenshots, I figured more like kind of like an action kind of like type game. I mean, the combat isn't bad. It's just, I think it's just mostly like this part where like they're all lined up in a line. It just kind of makes it boring. It's like there's this game where it was a beat 'em up, but like you could only fight people like one at a time. Like you'd walk and then someone would come up to you, then you'd have to fight them, and like that's all you would do. Like there wasn't like a Final Fight or Streets of Rage. Like it was literally like you couldn't just like go from person to person. It was just like in a line. That's kind of what this part reminds me of. And I like this cop who looks like he should be on a cover of like a Preview 73 album. I'm guessing it's just like shields or like holograms of them, but I thought that was a pretty cool effect. Again, I don't know if this one's a bug, but as you can see, that last robot almost killed me, and then going up to this guy, I had like full health left, so I don't know if that was intentional or not. I think it's only happened one time before, but it does seem like it'll randomly like regenerate your health sometime. Even like right there, I feel like it did. But I like how that one actually calls me by the character's name. I don't think any of the other robots ever talk. And then we're kind of heading to the last part, and this is the last section where it feels like it's just like repetitive. And I want to come off like sound like an asshole, like, oh, you know, they shouldn't have these types of things where there's like nothing crazy happening. I think it's just because it's like the same thing, like you shoot, you dodge the lasers, and that's basically it. I mean, I appreciate that they, you know, are kind of changing the gameplays up from just going from like the point and click style to something like this. Do I feel like it could have been executed better? Possibly, but I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. I don't want to come off sound like I can make a better game, but it's just, like I said, it's just this section, those past sections kind of just feel definitely very repetitive. Probably, and a lot of it is due to like you can't control like where you're moving or anything like that. Like you're, especially on this one, like you're literally just kind of like just like a very just like basic shooter. Like you just move to the right, shoot people, and then put on the shields if you get shot at or if the lasers come up. So and then we're actually at the final boss now. So a very, you know, short game. I think my timer is like a little bit under an hour. Granted, I cut some time off of when I was doing other stuff and when I've, you know, maybe died a couple of times, but you know, for the most part was able to beat the game in about an hour. Even the first time I played it, when I didn't know anything about it, I think max it took me about an hour and a half to beat it. So pretty short game. And then this is honestly the last puzzle of the game. When I first played it, I thought you had to make sure connections got to those blue sections, but that kills you. So really the easiest thing to do is just to make sure there are no connections at all touching it, and then just connect them like normal. I mean, it'll show you where the electricity is flowing, and then once you beat this, you're pretty much, I mean, the game, not you're pretty much, you are done with the game. This is where it says that there are multiple endings on the store page for this game. I mean, it's one of those instances where it's like, well, you're not wrong, but I guess usually with me, like with other games I've played, like Chrono Trigger, or even that replica game I played not too long ago, when I think of like multiple endings, I'm usually thinking of, you know, maybe like 5, 6, possibly even more than that. But when you go to free him, it'll give you a choice. You can actually either open the cage or to step up the voltage, which I presume will actually kill him. And those are literally your 2 endings. So, I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, there is, you know, it's more than one ending, so there's multiple. But I was thinking of, you know, maybe there was like, you know, a couple more than that. And there might be, you know, I don't want to say I completely beat this game 100%. But from what I know, it's really just that ending and this ending. And if you choose to let them out, the achievement pops, and then it says that it was a good choice. The reason I bring that up is because obviously your whole point was that the resistance team wanted you to take out the Gensec guy, who's that guy. But at the end, you find out that Gensec is actually just that supercomputer, and you know, he's the actual Gensec guy. So I don't know if the resistance actually wanted you to kill the real guy or just the supercomputer guy. So I didn't do the other ending, so I don't know how that one will fare out. And then this is the weird part, like it's like you beat it and then it's this. I can't, like, I've tried to hit escape, I've tried to click everywhere, it won't go past this screen. The only thing I've seen is that if you try to alt tab from it, a message will come up saying hit alt tab and then alt again, and that's basically it. So it just sits on the screen for, you know, until whenever you actually have to click out of this game, like $6 or $7. If I were to be honest, I think that's, at least for this game, I mean, I know you're supposed to support, you know, indie game developers, so don't get me wrong on that. I guess just my opinion, just because of how short the game is. I mean, you can really get all the achievements in one run, besides getting the achievement for the other ending. Obviously, you just have to play the game again. There's no save points or anything like that, so you literally have to play through the whole game again in order to get it. So, I mean, overall, you figure, you know, beat this game twice takes about 2.5 hours maybe, and that's basically it. There's really no other replay value besides that. But I did enjoy it. It was a fun play. I'm glad it didn't torture me really too much with the gameplay. Really, only complaints would have to be, I mean, I've already said them, would be like those sections that seem to drag out. The controls sometimes can be a little bit clunky, and they can definitely kind of, you know, screw up when you have to do certain parts of the game. And then sometimes the text can kind of be a little off, but that is really not a big deal. But I do recommend playing it. Do I wish it was a couple bucks cheaper? You know, yes, I would maybe shoot for maybe like $3, maybe possibly even $4. And, you know, obviously a money thing is, you know, everyone's probably going to say a game should be cheaper. But I just feel like there's not too much, you know, gameplay value with that. I mean, the second time I beat it, maybe I'll beat the third time to get that ending, the other ending, so I get all the achievements. But ultimately, possibly the last game, or the last time I ever touched this game. So I check it out. Like I said, pretty fun game to play, especially if you've played like Another World, Flashback, or any of those other games. I'd definitely give it a try. I know I didn't talk too much during it, but there's really not too much to say about this game. Even though it's very easy, I still figured I'd put up a kind of like guide for you, at least to kind of give some tips, or, you know, if you're curious, if you're not sure if you wanted to spend the money, at least you can kind of see what the gameplay is like and everything like that. And I'll probably as well post a little short article, Steam review, and on the website as well, to kind of tie everything together. So I hope you enjoyed watching it. Hope I didn't talk too much for you. I'm still trying to, you know, get these videos a little bit better. I always kind of see what kind of Steam games are out there that come out. I try to look at them daily, kind of see what new games are out there, kind of get some videos out so you guys know whether or not, you know, they're worth a play. Luckily, I haven't really played any games too much I wouldn't recommend. Granted, I'm a pretty casual gamer, so I'm pretty easy to please. But that's really about it. So keep an eye out for any new videos that come out, any new games that come out, and then I'll see you guys next time.